In this video, I'm going to be discussing my newest God of War theory about who is the Boar in God of War 2018. So these right here are the channels that followed my specific instructions to be mentioned in this video. And really, only two? I'm giving free advertisement space here, people. If you would like your YouTube channel mentioned in my very next video, please follow the specific instructions at the very end of this video. Literally, you have to stay to the very last second to find out how you can get mentioned in my next video. Okay, here we go. So, who is the Boar in God of War 2018 that Kratos and Atreus kind of sort of used as target practice? I mean, that's quite a statement to start out with this video, but let's keep going. So this theory we're going to be talking about today does not actually come directly from me. No, this is actually coming from my brother Jake, who I keep telling to make his own channel, but I guess he's camera shy or something. And he likes to tell me his thoughts on God of War. While I find his theory really cool, and I think you all will as well, and I also have my own theory on the subject, so let's dive right in. So we first see this boar, or pig, which we find out later that his name is Hildisvíni, toward the beginning of God of War 2018, where Kratos and Atreus are out kind of on a hunt, or Kratos is actually trying to see if he can actually hunt. So on Atreus' first attempt, his shot actually bounces off Hildisvíni. But his next shot actually injures Hildisvíni, and Atreus runs off after him, and during my luck of playing God of War 2018, I completely lost him in the mist. Oh well. I found him eventually, and we do eventually stumble on Atreus, finding Hildisvíni on the ground, also with the Witch of the Woods, who we find out is Freya. So we find out from Freya that Hildisvíni is her friend, and that he is the last of his kind throughout Midgard. So are there more like Hildisvíni in Freya's homeworld of Vanaheim? Only time will tell, because at this time of this recording, God of War Ragnarok has not even given a release date yet. But my big issue with this little scene is Kratos has to do this little type of surgery, which he really doesn't have to do because he got shot with an arrow, not slit open. Or Hildisvíni's just being a little bitch. Maybe Hildisvíni cut himself as he was running away from Atreus. Or maybe Atreus started to gut him alive. Dear God of War, what is our boy becoming? Bitch. Anyway, we learn from the written sagas of Norse mythology, which does have its contradictions with the oral myth. Anyway, in some of the written sources in Norse mythology, specifically the poem Hyndlululth, and I apologize for the awful pronunciations, we see Freya with Hildisvíni outside of a Volva's house named Hyndla, trying to find out the origins of Freya's protege Otter. Well, there's another story about Hildisvíni, one where he actually builds an altar to Freya and promises her basically worship throughout his entire life if she would help him find the origin, because he was kind of an orphan. So Freya came to Hildisvíni and turned him into a boar for the journey that they were about to have together, and kind of hide him away. It actually turns out that Hildisvíni is actually a descendant from a minor king, or maybe even a jarl. That's pretty much all we know about Hildisvíni in the Norse mythology and in the sagas, at least to my knowledge. But my theory later on in the video has something to do with this last saga I just mentioned, so stay tuned. So here's Jake's theory. So he thinks the boar in God of War 2018 could be the vineyard god Njord, which kind of makes sense once you break it down. So Njord does have a small mention, kind of like Heimdall in God of War 2018. When we first pull up to a small fishing village that was actually crushed by the giant Thamur after his battle with Thor, you know, the place right before we fight Magni and Modi, and actually the final battle between us and Baldur? Yeah, that place. The fishing village that we pull up on, actually their main deity was Njord himself. We don't hear much more about Njord, kind of like Heimdall during God of War 2018, but Captain Cuba, the captain of God of War theory videos, has a pretty cool theory about Njord, so hit it right here if you're interested. So in Norse mythology, Njord can actually be pretty well compared to the Greek god Poseidon. So he is associated with the seas and the ocean, but a little bit differently. Njord is actually god of the sea coast, which actually ancient Germanic and Scandinavian people would pray to him for safe passage across the oceans, because that's where the real dangers are. While the seas in the Norse realm do not belong to Njord, they actually belong to Ran, a goddess of the ocean, and her husband, who is a Jotun and or giant called Aegir, who Aegir actually has a small mention in God of War 2018, being the gold pieces that we pick up called Aegir's Gold. But this all might be a theory for a whole nother day. Another piece of information about Njord that a lot of people really don't know is that he is the father of Freyr and Freya. So maybe Njord left their homeworld of Vanaheim to come check in on Freya in Midgard. It could happen, but to hide himself from the Aesir, he turned himself into a boar because, let's be honest, the Aesir and the Vanir do not get along. But for some reason, Njord could not come out of his boar form, whether it is a miscalculation or some type of other reason. He would be one of the last of his kind stuck in Midgard, and he has been stuck in this shape for so long that he can barely remember who he actually is. A powerful Vanir god. See, I like this theory and it could be very well true, but now onto who I think the boar is in God of War 2018. So, here's my crazy theory. So back in September of 2021, back when God of War Ragnarok trailer was released, we also got released the cast list for God of War Ragnarok. And I kind of took this as, wow, we can actually see what might be coming in God of War Ragnarok, because besides the cast, which Sony Santa Monica picked an amazing cast of actors, we also see future characters of God of War Ragnarok. So when scrolling through the character list of God of War Ragnarok in IMDb, I came across someone who I didn't know off the top of my head. His name is Skjoldr, played by AJ Lacasio. But who is Skjoldr, and what does he have to do with God of War Ragnarok? So Skjoldr is actually mentioned a few times in Norse mythology in the Prose Edda, which between you and me is the most unreliable source of Norse mythology, Ynglinga saga, and actually even the saga of Beowulf. So this is a pretty famous guy, and in the literature, he is actually known as one of the first kings of Denmark. So in the stories, Odin actually came from Asia, from a place called Scythia, which actually spreads from modern-day mid-Asia to Russia and the Ukraine. So Odin marched from Scythia and took over what is actually most known as Northern Europe today, and gave Sweden to his son Yngvi, which all their kings from then on were called Yinglings, which I have no idea if that has anything to do with the beer company or not, but, and gave Denmark to his son Skjoldr, which all their kings from then on were called Skjoldungs. A pretty cool history lesson if you have to ask me, but what does this have to do with God of War Ragnarok? So in God of War Ragnarok, I do believe Skjoldr will be the king of Midgard because, let's just face it, each of the realms has their own king and Midgard's kind of missing one. So I think Skjoldr will actually fit the part pretty well. Whether Skjoldr will be Odin's son or not will be completely up to Sony Santa Monica and those geniuses over there. But I do like how they twist and turn things from Norse mythology and even Greek mythology to tell their own story. So it could very well be that Odin put a god or demigod or someone that he really trusts in Midgard to rule over the realm of humans. So this is what I'm thinking. So during Freya's time with the Aesir and being married to Odin, she probably did get along with some of the gods there, maybe even made alliances. Along with all the other people that she got along with and possibly made alliances with might be Skjoldr. So when Freya is eventually banished by Odin to Midgard, where she cannot even protect herself even if she is being attacked, she needs help hiding herself from the Aesir, probably because Thor's after her ass. So she confided in someone to help keep her safe. This person who I think helped her is Skjoldr. So after Skjoldr helps Freya, Odin is completely pissed. And Odin hears word of this maybe from another god, but more than likely his ravens. So now that Odin is pretty pissy at Skjoldr, Freya, returning the favor, helps hide him. Help him hide as the boar, Hildisvini, which kind of lines up with the myths. So yes, I think the boar in God of War 2018 is the king of Midgard, Skjoldr. What do you think? I want to thank each and every one of you for your precious time that you spent with me today. And if you did like this video, please leave a like, think about subscribing, and please share this video out so others can like it as well. So now, how can you get your YouTube video mentioned in my very next video at the beginning, kind of like the others? All you have to do is leave the hashtag static in one of your comments. That's it. Simple as that. If your comment does not contain the hashtag static on it, your channel name will not show up in my next video. Just leave the hashtag static. It's that simple. All entries have to be put in by the time I'm editing my next video. So, TikTok.